Patsy. Fine, how you doing?
Whoa, good morning, everybody. We're so glad to hear you and see you on this beautiful sunny morning. Glad you're here because I know some of you might like to be out in your gardens. But we're all looking forward to hearing the fire department message that Skip's going to bring. If anyone wants to go back and get coffee or get something to nibble on while the meeting is in process, please feel free to do that now. We'll wait just a minute if anyone wants to go back, or we'll eat afterwards too. So either time. Thank you. We're kind of flexible today because our treasurer is sick and our first speaker is sick, but Raymond's going to come up and we have
I'm not going to be the speaker.
a wonderful fill-in.
You don't look like Fred.
Anyhow, yeah, it's great to see so many people here today. Nice to have a few men too. That's wonderful. Hi, John. And I think that we would all agree that the fire department is an essential part of Cornwall. We all appreciate it, and I know if I had an emergency and called 911, within minutes I'd have the first responders on my doorstep. So here today is Skip Kosciusko to tell us more about the workings of the fire department and all the goings on and everything else. Okay, Skip.
Thank you for that introduction. Good morning, I'm Skip Kosciusko. I'm not supposed to be here. You had a much better speaker. You had Fred Scoble coming, but Fred's kids gave him a stomach bug yesterday, and so he can't make it today. And I'm going to leave my pager right on, because I think this kind of embodies where our life goes. When you wear one of these suckers, you go through the day, this thing's talking non-stop, and after we do this for a while, we learn how to listen to this and listen to our wife at the same time, or our kids at the same time. But it kind of embodies what we do. I have been, I've been an EMT for a while. I trained in 1975 and then was certified in early 1976 and became a firefighter in 1978. So I've been doing this a little while. I've served with the town of Cornwall since 1996 in many capacities, both fire and rescue. I also serve with the Goshen Volunteer Fire Department and Ambulance Squad, and I volunteer at Canaan when they get jammed up. They are a little bit different. They're a service that charges for their services, and then they bill their patients. We have something very remarkable here in the town of Cornwall and in the town of Goshen. We still provide our services free of charge. And it's pretty cool to stand here and be able to say that. We don't charge for our services. We are well supported. The reason we can do that is we are so well supported by our community and by our town. A great thanks to Gordon Ridgway. Gordon has been, I've seen other towns that don't enjoy the support that the Cornwall Volunteer Fire Department enjoys from our town. And that's really, really important to help us be able to function the way we like to function. When I spoke to Fred, I asked him what he thought would be important for us to convey, and a couple of things. On a news front, the department's considering buying a new fire truck. That's a very, very expensive item, and there's a committee right now designing the kind of fire truck that we'd like to have that serves us well and out here in this very rural area. And of course, weighing that out with the cost of such a very expensive vehicle, pretty easy to say it'd be well over $500,000 for a new fire truck. But he wanted to talk about that. The committee is meeting and designing hopefully our future truck to replace an aging one that we have down in the firehouse in Cornwall Bridge. For those of you that don't know, here in Cornwall, we do have two firehouses. The main firehouse is right up by the school on Route 128, but we also keep a large tanker truck. Tankers carry a lot of water, and we have one fire engine or a pumper down in Cornwall Bridge, so we have another firehouse down there. Cornwall is a volunteer service. All of our people donate their time and their services with no compensation. I shouldn't say there's no compensation. I guess somewhere down the line, the town is putting some money into an account that we can access maybe when we retire or something. Patience is here. I don't know why they sent a big, dumb, illiterate redneck when we have Patience is here.
Because you like to talk a lot, Skip.
Tell us, can you tell them about our program?
Our incentive program. After you've been with the fire department for 5 years, and you are very active, means there's all these criteria you have to meet. Number of drills, number of meetings, and they're monthly all the time. And the number of calls you attend. You can get up to $1,000 incentive put into what is like an IRA. It's put away, you can't really touch the money until you retire.
So I thank you very much for having that program, for clarifying what that is. So somewhere down the road, I'll know more about that. Hopefully that's still a ways off for me. So we're volunteer. Our department provides both fire and rescue services, as well as the medical side, the ambulance. They are separate divisions of the same fire department. Of course, the training's a little bit different when we're getting into the back of an ambulance versus a fire truck. And the training's tough. The training is tough. It requires a volunteer to go and take a class that are challenging classes, especially now the firefighter classes, to know construction materials, construction designs, and how those affect our efforts when we're fighting an interior fire. There's a lot to learn, tough classes. But we take those classes, and then we get certified as EMTs if we're going to be in the ambulance. We get certified as firefighters if we want to work with the fire division. And then off we go. They give us one of these pagers. The town of Cornwall, our numbers don't really support a schedule. So we don't, as a volunteer here in Cornwall, Patience and I don't have schedules. We carry our pagers, and when it goes off, hopefully there's a crew that can scramble quickly and will cover the call, but we aren't assigned to shifts, except at night. At night, we have moved to, so we don't have to get 10 people out of bed for a 2-person ambulance call. The rescue squad has moved to a schedule where 2 people roll at night. And of course, if they find themselves in a situation where they need more, they set off the tones again and they get more help. Our system's struggling. It's getting harder and harder and this is not just Cornwall. In fact, Cornwall's actually doing better than most, but I think we're all struggling. The system is struggling to keep up with the demand for our services. I think you've got multiple factors in there. First of all, many of us, are the age of me and Patience. We're getting older, and we're trying real hard, but we're getting older. And an influx of new, young volunteers in our system seems to be waning. We're having more and more difficult time getting new people, new blood into this system. Because of that, the people that are in the system are worked a little bit harder, worked a little bit more, and our capacity to do what we used to do is diminishing. So the system is definitely getting strained, and we're seeing the results of that strain. Of course, this is the only system I've ever operated in, except for Canaan. I go to Canaan like that. They are different. They pay their people to man their ambulance. They bill their patients. And the reason I do volunteer with Canaan, I couldn't help but wonder if perhaps our volunteer systems up here in the northwest corner that don't charge anything, do everything with volunteers, may have to consider some of the changes that North Canaan made to stay viable. but they become a paid service and they hire their people, and they have a very vibrant, strong service that provides it's what they call an advanced life support level of care, as opposed to Cornwall, where we just provide a basic life support level of care. But the system is struggling, and I can't help but wonder if we're not going to need to start to make changes. And I've heard all kinds of ideas thrown out, perhaps regionalizing, perhaps bringing in paid people, although this really sucks. But the problem is, once you introduce a paid person to a squad, the incentive for the volunteers plummets. Once there's a paid person, like the tones go off, and Aiden and I are out spraying for ticks today, and the tones go off, and it'd be really tough for me to leave right there. If I know there's a paid person that's going to be there and they're going to handle the call, my incentive to respond goes way down. And that's quite a problem, because the towns see the deficit, and they want to help cover that, and they then introduce a paid person, someone they're going to reimburse for their services, but that has to be done with incredible care, because I've just seen it happen so many times. Once the paid people start, Torrington's just saw this. The Torringford Fire Department. You know, once they had paid people, the volunteerism all but died. So exactly how will this get better? I don't see how the situation will get better.
Housing. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Housing. It's all about housing.
Housing. The question was housing. One of the incentives that has been discussed to keep volunteers, or to get volunteers into our program, is to provide some kind of housing in our community that where volunteers could live and stay, perhaps in exchange for, you know, their services as a fireman and or as an EMT. I think that's a really fascinating and really cool idea, although I have not really seen it operationalized in this area yet to see exactly how it would work. And people in Cornwall know probably the cost of housing in this town is right up there. It's really tough. And when you look at the demographics that we're looking for, young, really healthy, strong people, the occupational opportunities in this community are challenging. We do have the service industries, plumbers, electricians, builders. I'm an arborist. I take care of trees, people's yards. People in the landscaping, a lot of huge demand for landscapers in this area. We do have that, but other occupational opportunities are challenging in our community. So, getting to positions that will allow people to afford to live in Cornwall are challenging. Housing, of course, would help get around one of those great big issues. But exactly how it will unfold, I don't know. We'll have to, we'll see. Right now, Cornwall's doing very well. Our current rescue captain is Lizzie Ridgway, and she is running the squad, and I will say that she has a solid number of volunteers, and Cornwall's doing an excellent job at answering the call. That's not the case in our northwest corner at this time. There are towns where the pager's going off, and the way it goes off once. 2 minutes later, if no one's responded, they'll set off our pager again, And then 1 minute later, if they haven't been out, they'll set off our pager a third time. If they set it off a third time, they call in the next town, the next closest town to come, because no one's answered. That's a disturbing eventuality, but I'm afraid now it happens a lot. You know, once a week in this northwest corner, I hear that situation unfold. Now, even with that, our EMS crews I would say, are doing an excellent job. The people in the state think that this northwest corner is doing an excellent job. We have a reputation doing that, and I hope that will continue for a while. But we are challenged, and I wanted to make you guys aware that if people have ideas, if people have friends, if people have relatives that might have any propensity toward doing this kind of work, we would love to talk to them. There are many, many different roles. And in fact, Patience is an incredible example. I remember when Patience first came to our department, she wanted to help us with what I call paperwork. Pardon me, I'm probably not an accurate description, but she came to help us with administrative stuff. And now she's gone on to become a very active member as an EMT. But if gaining interest, getting new people into our organization, there are many different kinds of jobs. Like Patience came in just to help with administrative stuff. Now all of a sudden she's in an operational role. But those administrative roles are there, and I don't want to mess with paperwork, or she does stuff. I don't want to mess with that. I want to go and drive the fire truck and put the fire out and clean all the stuff and put it away. So we need new volunteers, kind of at all different levels, to do all different kinds of things, from being an EMT to being a fireman.
Or fire.
Skip, wouldn't it behoove you to have a different audience as opposed to us? I mean, we're all of a certain age, and it being this time of the day, wouldn't it behoove you to go to like the school when the parents are there? And because we had such a huge influx of young new people that moved up here.
That's a great initiative, and that's something when I was the rescue captain, when I was in charge of the ambulance squad, I did precisely that. I went into the schools.
Yeah.
I went into the schools, and that was effective. That worked. I remember, everyone know the pink house in the center of West Cornwall?
Oh, yeah.
They had a big fire there one day.
Sure did.
They had a big fire, and it was in a really difficult place. They had a false roof over the original roof, and the fire was in between those two, so we couldn't get to where it was to put it out. Getting full extinguishing was very challenging. We had, I don't know, 3 or 4 different departments here. But on that day, at that time, Gordon Ridgway and I had a group of kids. They called them juniors in the fire department. And I don't know anything, but that day I wasn't on the firefighting side, I was on the ambulance side. And I said, you know what? Let's go get those kids. They're at school right now. Let me go up there and get those kids and bring the kids down here, and the kids can help out and they can see what we do. That day I took the ambulance up to the school. The principal made an announcement. Mary Kate Kosciusko, Zach Sawicki, Jonah Whiteside, Elizabeth Ridgway, all come to the principal's office to go respond with the fire department. They all came. Those 4 kids went with us that day. They brought water around to the firemen. They helped the firemen get in and out of their stuff. They were kept in a safe spot of that zone. All 4 of those kids went on to careers in EMS. Jonah and Mary Kate are emergency room doctors, or on their way to becoming emergency room doctors. Zach Sawicki became a paramedic with a Bachelor of Science in Paramedic Administration. And Elizabeth Ridgway went on to become an emergency room nurse, and now she's getting the advanced APRN rating. I think she finishes that this fall or something. So bringing people in young has proven very, very effective. But think about the hazards there. It is fraught with risks. When I brought those kids to there, what if the ambulance crashed? What if something happened unseen? What if there was a partial building collapse? When you're talking about kids, the state, as they should, is very, very concerned about how we monitor and how we train those kids to be in that kind of a situation or out of that situation. And it took a lot of time and effort to take a program like that and run it effectively, and more importantly, to run it safely. And the state requirements to have such an organization have become much more strict over the years. Probably because as volunteers, we just brought the kids along, we messed up, and someone got hurt, which we don't want to have. But that's what you suggested has proved to be very, very effective. And if we had the manpower or the people that had the time to devote to putting together a program, looking at the compliance issues and making sure we stayed within compliance, that would be huge, I think, toward getting new people, the people that are already in our community, more involved with our organization. It has proven that to me in the past. I'm sure, I think it would work again. Yes?
Does the fact that a lot of the people who moved up here, this is a supposition, now work remotely, they're around during the day, but they work remotely for a bigger area company?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question or the statement.
Does that help you or hurt you?
The fact that there's more we have more people here?
Available.
That's still evolving. COVID, all of a sudden, our population did grow around here, and exactly how that will affect us, will we get some of those people serving? Will it increase the demands on our services? Those things are still unfolding, and I don't know. I'm just a big dumb illiterate redneck. I don't know. I know my daughter Mary Kate says, "Dad, that's not an accurate statement." She said, "You're not that big."
Can we consider them
She's a jerk.
daytime available?
Of course, perhaps we will see people become available from that population.
Yeah, they're young.
This is kind of new to them, I think many of those people worked in a very urban setting for a long time, and now all of a sudden they're out here. Will that evolve into more participation with things like the Cornwall Volunteer Fire Department? I don't know. We haven't. I really can't think of any influx from that population at this point in time, but it's early. We have not. I'm not aware of any initiative that Cornwall or Goshen or North Canaan or the other squads, I'm not aware of anyone going after that demographic for help with their organization, but like I said...
well, I'm making the assumption also that that's the large part of our growth.
I don't know. It probably is. I'm sure you're probably right on. I don't know. I don't know.
That was more my point, was gearing it toward the parents, not so much the kids, but
Oh, the kids.
the kids are great.
When we involved, and I've seen this time, I was someone who got involved when I was 15 years old. John Harney wrote El Agrasso, the governor, to get me a waiver so that I could start taking the EMT class even though I was only 15 years old. People who get into this line of work early tend to build it into their life. They tend to build their life around this kind of service. So going after the kids is big, but today we do see parents. We have a new member, Jane Hall, who has kids, little tiny kids in the area, but there's someone who's in our community and has stepped up. And
Do they know that it's a volunteer? I mean, do the new people, are they aware that it's a volunteer position, the fire department?
how would they know?
School. I mean,
How would they know?
that's
We
what I
don't.
mean. How do they know?
Yeah. How would they know?
You need to tell them. You need to.
The newcomers club though, the newcomers greeting, I think the
Yeah.
fire department gives
Yes.
a talk, you know, of that. the newcomer.
The fundraising letter mentions the need for volunteers.
I'm sorry, can what mention in the letter?
The fundraising letter always talks about the need for volunteers too.
Yeah, and I tell you, I'm a big, dumb, illiterate redneck. I don't think I've read the appeal letter.
Thank you, Skip.
I don't think I've read the appeal letter in several years. Patience probably writes that letter for us. Have we addressed the need for volunteers in our appeal letter?
Always,
Yes,
always.
always.
Always, okay.
Yeah,
Always.
it's
So-
there.
I was gonna wait for the movie to come out. I'm challenged by that reading.
Talking about volunteers, I have a friend who recently went through the training for EMT here in Cornwall. And I know there's a big expense involved and many hours, like 50 or 60 hours of training.
Oh, no, it's 140 hours plus.
And it, you know, does the individual pay for that, or does the department cover that?
The class, the question was, this class, it's a long class, and how do they pay for it? It's expensive. The classes, first of all, they tend to be, actually it's 160 hours now. The basic class is 160 hours. When I took it in 1975, it was 81 hours.
Wow.
But now it's 160 hours, but there's all kinds of additions to that. You have to do 10 hours working either in the back of an ambulance or in an emergency room. There's a lot on there. The cost is usually in the vicinity of $1,000 to $1,500 to take that class. Then you have to take the test. I don't know, it's $100 probably to take the test. And different communities have come up with different ways to help volunteers through that. Town of Goshen, their Park and Rec Commission totally funded a class and then allowed anyone that wanted to come for free. I'm not sure what they paid for that class, but the Goshen Park and Rec did that. As a result, Goshen added several new EMTs, very active people, to their ranks, and that has been of huge help over there in Goshen.
I think you should point out that Cornwall does pay for all training.
Cornwall pays for all training. They do. We are well. They make a caveat.
Yes.
They make a caveat. If I'm going to become an EMT in the town of Cornwall, I have to front the money. I have to go front the money. But upon completion of the class and certification, then the town reimburses me for my expenses to get that certification.
That's very cool.
A lot of towns simply just pay for the people to take the class, but I guess we had a lot of people that we paid for that went partway through it and gave up, and we already spent the
That
money.
makes sense.
And some people had a problem with that. So, what else can I say about our fire department?
So-
Patience, what would you say about our fire
We have a
department?
great banquet.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's a good group of people. But you should also explain that it's a lot of time during the week, because you have the general department meeting every month. You have 2 EMT training, 1 meeting and 1 training session. The fire department meets every Wednesday to drill. So it's not like it's you wander in and out occasionally, but it is a time commitment all the way around.
And then I see out my kitchen window a bunch of men out there, and women both, in the wintertime on the ice on Cream Hill Lake.
Those idiots, I hope you called them in. Don't get off that ice, it's too thin.
At first I didn't know, so I walked up to the Hammond Beach fence, and I saw all these cars coming from different fire departments and EMT departments. So then I wasn't worried that someone was out there on the ice. But you really, and then in the summertime, you're out there training too. So, I mean, it's amazing the commitment that going out in that water when it's got to be 35 or 34 degrees.
She's talking about, I was going to try to pull up some pictures, but I don't know how I'd even circulate them. Although I had a really cool one. I got to rescue a deer over in Goshen this winter, and I had the.
Did I see that in the paper?
Oh, it was on, yes, it was in the news.
Yeah. Here's pass my phone around. That's us in the ice water rescue suits. We were talking about the ice water rescue. One of the training modules that we got to do is we have special suits, and negotiating ice that's breaking is a really challenging situation. Even when you're totally warm and covered and protected,
It's a video.
getting through that to a person, or in this case, a deer that was stuck out. That could be really, really hard. And the last time we went into the water, probably if you saw us this year, the conditions were really hard. Because the ice wasn't thin enough that we could get up on top and go across the ice on our bellies, because it would break. But it was thick enough that we couldn't just walk through it or swim through it. It was a very challenging year. Luckily, all we had to do with those challenging conditions was train, but it was very, very challenging. But that's one of the things, that we have an ice water rescue team that's specially outfitted and has the equipment and the training to rapidly respond to situations like that, and the deer stuck out of the ice. If you watch it to the end of that video, you see the deer, we get the deer all the way to the edge, and she gets up and she runs away.
Yeah, I know, no thank you.
And they do it in the middle of deer season. We're out there trying to get deer. It runs away off. Good question.
You spoke about the fire function and the medical function. Is there a first responder function within the Cornwall department?
Great question. What levels of training are there? There are so many different levels of training. And what we'll probably recommend is if somebody comes in and looks at our department, we can show them all the things that we do. Patients will have a very, very different idea of the jobs that need to be done than Skipper will. I'm all about racing around, blazing sirens and doing stuff, and patients is all, much more concerned about, are we doing this safely? Are we complying with the local laws? Have we filed the papers that we need to have filed? Or, she's concerning herself. But there are many things to be done. And there are different levels of training, or sometimes no training at all, depending on what the person's interested in helping our department do. There is an entry level at the EMS level. It's called, we used to call it an MRT, a medical response technician. Now they call it an emergency medical responder, an EMR. And that's a 40-hour class that teaches someone how to remediate life-threatening emergencies and basically hold the fort until the cavalry get there, the ambulance and the EMTs. But in a town like Cornwall, between Sharon and what we have in Cornwall, our little ambulance and our little squad covers 60 square miles. Wow. That EMR position is a vital position because that leaves people with defibrillators, in case it's a cardiac issue, with oxygen, with bleeding, the supplies needed to stop bleeding, to remedy life-threatening emergencies we have scattered throughout the community. So when the tones go off, it doesn't have to be someone coming from my side, from the Cornwall Bridge to head out, into East Cornwall. We have people kind of spread out, and hopefully they all have the kind of equipment so we can get somebody there quickly with what's needed to remediate life-threatening issues. But that's a 40-hour class, there's the EMT class, there's the firefighter class, a huge, one that might have been a bit, that I'm a little dismissive of, is our fire police. But if you think about any time we have an accident, a car accident, the rest of the world's still going. And we're on the side of the road or in the middle of the road trying to treat someone who might be injured, might be seriously injured. The fire police are the people that rapidly come, take over the traffic, have the traffic go by us in a safe fashion so that they don't get hurt and so that we don't get hurt, a huge thing. And there's an entry-level position that's very much needed, used all the time, that doesn't take a whole lot of training to get into. So there's an example of one on the fire side. And then there's just all, I'm swift water rescue, I'm ice water rescue, I'm high angle rescue, low angle rescue. Those are all different classes and certifications that we get if we want to serve there, and someone could, come and pursue that certification independently of all the other stuff. Not quite true, not all of those, but many of them can be.
Wow.
All right, patience, I've been up here yakking away. Do you have anything?
No, you're doing great. I knew you could talk long enough.
I got one.
I'm sorry, what?
Communication. When it comes for us living on Route 7, we have no communication whatsoever once the internet goes out. There's no cell tower.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 or 4 weeks ago, going up to Sharon, a car had gone off the road, down the bank, and we had to literally go knocking on doors to find someone who was in to phone 911 because our cell phones wouldn't pick up anything.
Yeah.
So if the internet goes out...
Was this during the last storm?
No, this was a
before the
beautiful
storm.
day.
Oh, it was a beautiful day.
Two guys went right off the road on going up toward Sharon.
Okay.
The car was backwards, which where all those guardrails were off.
Uh-huh. There's a lot of crashes there.
I still don't know how they did it.
That's an area we're very familiar with. But communications in this area are challenging, of course.
They sure are.
When we go to these pagers in the radios that we would hear on these pagers, they have a more extensive communication system that usually allows us to stay in touch.
Right.
But I was asking about that last storm. The last storm, everything went down.
Yeah.
everything.
We lost power, we lost internet, we lost cellular, and then we lost these. They were using remote towers to dispatch us, and it got really, really hard to hear them, and they couldn't hear us at all. But we get it. We got through.
So what does it use to, I mean, what connects that? Internet or satellite or?
No, these are these are high band radio frequencies. So it's a radio frequency. And the purpose of this is to bother your wife and your children.
And everybody goes right.
That's the purpose of this thing. And this allows me to listen, but it does not allow me to talk back. So they call this a pager. When it's Cornwall, before anything happens, it makes a really harsh, piercing, warbling sound. And then they go into their instructions on what our call is, where it is, what it is, how they want us to respond. But I can only listen.
331 Wells Hill Road, a 9595 female. Upload GI, please. Conscious breathing, 21 Bravo report. Repeat for Salisbury and Jones.
Where's that coming
Wells
from?
Hill Road.
Never mind, Sam, we'll just turn it down.
That's what this thing does. Today's actually been pretty quiet. To get this far through the thing without a call.
So you get everybody, you don't just get Cornwall.
I can go and I can change one of these buttons so that I won't hear a thing on this until Cornwall's tones go off. When Cornwall's tones go off, that opens up the pager, and then I hear everything subsequently throughout the county, unless I reset it. Patients are talking about that. Yes.
I have some questions about your current statistics. How many volunteers active do you guys have?
One. No. No. Let's see. How many volunteers do we have currently? Our roll call sheet, I think, would indicate we have about 60 to 70 members.
That's in fire?
I'm asking patients.
I would guess, when I do my emails out to everybody, there's 57 on the email, and some of those are non-responders, so we're much closer to 50.
That's for fire or for everything?
That's for everything.
Okay.
That's for fire police, it's for EMTs, it's for the secretary who has no training, it's for the president, treasurer.
Can everyone hear patients? She's saying to me.
Am I muttering? Sorry. So, probably active. I mean, really active people, we might have 40.
I don't think we have 40.
That are really active? Yeah.
Really active, I think we have I doubt we have 20.
Really?
Yeah.
I doubt we have 20. You got 20 people that
That are active.
are really, really active.
That's across all 3 departments?
Yeah.
Fire rescue, EMS.
Rescue and EMS I'm putting together. So we have two divisions. We have fire and rescue, which is the ambulance squad.
Okay.
Although those are bad names because the fire department does some rescue stuff that the ambulance squad doesn't and can't do. But I'd guess we have about 20 really active people
For both?
for both.
Well,
However, if there's a fire, the people that haven't been responding a lot, I mean, when we actually have a real fire, then people sort of come out of the woodwork.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. So those numbers for the day-to-day stuff sound thin, and they are. We'd all love to see more people. My wife says that the people that they see a lot of our people like me, where our ego is bigger than our IQ. But Patience brings up a really good point that when there is something where we really need a lot of manpower, some of those people that we don't see on the day-to-day basis do come, and they are there, and they are of tremendous benefit, and we'd be lost if we didn't have those people.
Oh, that's good to hear.
So I think that kind of highlights that there's all different levels of participation that a person can choose and can undertake, from being there just a little bit to being there all the time, and there's everything in between. So if anyone ever has an interest in what needs to be done at that West Cornwall Firehouse, Patience will tell you.
So you have 20 active-ish. How many would you say would be enough? How many would you like to see active?
What's enough is enough
Here's a
to
number.
briskly cover the calls that come in. And Cornwall is doing better than most, but even in Cornwall, you know, we've had times where those tones have gone off 3 times and there's been no response. And they've had to go to the next town. So enough people is when we have it, so that never happens. That's kind of a new phenomenon. I mean, I was the rescue captain. I was an officer on the rescue squad for about 25 years. That never happened even once. Fred said it did happen once when I was on vacation, but I don't remember that. I didn't hear about that. I don't think we did. So that's kind of a new phenomenon. I think it's just as a result. COVID put an incredible strain on the volunteers. I remember going, that was a terrible time. That was a terrible time. But COVID put a strain on the workers in the system. The people that are in the system are getting older, and perhaps we haven't done a good job of making concerted effort to get new people in. And so our system is a bit strained now.
maybe at one of the gatherings that we have on the green this summer, maybe we should set up like a volunteer fire department thing and have a booth. And have people come to that, and maybe it would draw people, wake them up so they realize the need.
I'm up for anything that improves the awareness in the community of what we are, what we do, and what we need. I'm all for that. We do. I know we bring the ambulance down here for the Ag Fair, and we just open up the doors and let people see what we're doing. I think we do that at the Memorial Day parade.
Yeah.
We do a similar function. Just hold the doors open and welcome people in and let them ask questions.
We have an open house. We usually have one.
We did have an open house last fall, all in an effort. Have those things yielded anything? I don't know. It seems to me that if we sought out people who really applied themselves to this problem, we might do better than what we're currently doing. But you start with big, dumb, illiterate rednecks like me. We just want to go out there and get, go light the fire, put the fire out, and then go home and without a lot of thought. People like Patience bring a broader perspective to all the things that we need to do to stay alive, viable, and healthy and proficient. But I'm sure that would merit all kinds of discussion.
Has anybody done a study as to how much it would cost to have you people on a salary or
Yes.
paid by hourly?
Yeah, it's about $1 million. And I'm sorry, 5 years ago, it was about $1 million a year to staff an ambulance for a year.
Right.
If you want to see much more current, hard, fast numbers, if you go to North Canaan, where they pay all of their EMTs and they pay their paramedics and they bill, you probably get a more up-to-date, I think it's well in excess of $1 million up there. But they are also providing a much higher level of care. They're providing a paramedic and advanced life support, where most of the squads in this area provide a basic level life support, which is all about sustaining the person but quickly getting them to the hospital or to a medic that's coming toward us to get more definitive care.
Right, yeah.
How do you choose which hospital to take people to? Do people make that decision themselves?
How do we choose which hospital we're going to? Well, we usually flip a coin.
Closest.
No, of course, the patient has, we can't take you someplace that you don't want to go. So the patient has some leeway. There's limits on that. If they say, I want to go to Miami-Dade, we can't do that, of course. But if they say we want to go to Charlotte-Hungerford, or we want to go to Sharon, or we want to go to New Milford, we are largely obligated to take that patient where they want to go. And there's some other things that have to be checked out. We might have to ask our doctor that supervises us over at Sharon Health. There's always a doctor in the emergency room, so we always have a doctor we can speak to. We don't have to run it by him, them, her. My daughter's about to become one of them. It could be her. But we might do that, but we go to all different hospitals. And, well, yesterday we used a helicopter, but sometimes if the injuries indicate or the condition indicates, we'll be taking them to Waterbury or to Hartford or to St. Francis Hospital.
However, we prefer not to do that because it leaves the town unprotected.
Right.
There's
That's
nobody
true.
here. If we can, we will defer to a paramedic if they've got a transporting vehicle or something like that, so that they can go all the way to Hartford. You don't leave Cornwall without coverage.
So does that answer the question about which hospitals we go to? We kind of, and sometimes when we have those patients that are high acuity and look like they're going to need resources above and beyond what we can expect to get at our local hospitals, we call for paramedics to take them, or we take them, or we call for a helicopter. Yesterday we used a helicopter in Goshen to a wonderful end. I mean, the patient had a lethal injury, and he's going to walk out of the hospital probably just fine because the helicopter was able to get here and get him to a neurosurgeon within an hour so they could relieve the pressure that was growing in the brain from the bleeding.
Do we have defibrillators anywhere in town?
We used to, but the batteries ran out. Patients, how many defibrillators do we have
I
circulating?
think we have 12 now.
We have 12?
But those are with people, right? I mean,
They're
there's
with
one like in the library or.
I don't know if we have any in the buildings.
Yeah.
Wait, Cream Hill Lake Association is the one place. They do have one on their waterfront. It's funny, when winter comes, that's always the defibrillator that I have all winter long. I get the one from Cream Hill Lake, but I'll have to bring that back soon and put it back as they begin to
Yeah,
consider.
the school has one.
The school has one?
Yep.
Is there one in East Cornwall?
That's it?
Um,
That's scary.
There was somebody that just got one, and I can't think of who it was, because we got the new ones in.
But aside from those permanent fixed ones, they're with responders.
There's with first responders.
I think Diane has one that she used when Richard Schlesinger had his
Yes, Diane has one.
event.
Yeah, well, I think we used Joyce's that day, but
Joyce's.
we used Joyce's that day. But that's the purpose of those EMRs, the emergency. I'm sorry, EMRs. Having people at the entry level with that kind of equipment, when they can get there in the first minute or two, that makes so much of a difference in the outcome for that patient.
How much do those cost to put one in here, for example?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea.
$2,500.
$2,500. Patience, why don't I sit in the back row and you come? Dang it, $2,500.
You know, we could sit here all day and listen.
I know
to
he's
this.
Yeah, really.
Oh no, if I was gonna be here all day, I'd start launching into some of the things we've encountered and how we've dealt with them, because that
I'm so
is
glad
just-
you're on the,
that is fascinating. The pictures, if you look through the pictures on this phone, you begin to see patients going down. Yeah, the pictures out here.
You know, it
my
makes
God.
us realize how here in Cornwall, how important this is for our quality of life. That
Yes,
we go
it
to
is.
sleep
yes.
and we don't have to worry that if we have a problem, someone's going to get there. And
Yes.
they're going to be qualified and trained, and because they're Cornwall people, they care. You know, and it makes a huge difference.
That's true.
So, I don't know how you all feel, but
It is, I am truly honored to serve with the people that I serve with in this community on that department, and in the neighboring departments as well.
Yeah.
The people that I work with are just amazing. They are self-giving, they self-sacrificing, what they put out, and it's not without risk. I've seen some, you know, we've had some terrible injuries as a result of people, you know, in their service. A year ago, I couldn't drive. I was going. My daughter picked me up on the way to bring me home from a car crash, and we got hit. And I was in the hospital for a month and a long time with bleeding in the brain as a result of getting hit.
No,
So we were like, well, where's that?
we
We're
thank you a
fortunate
lot.
to have you and the men and women in Cornwall.
It's an amazing organization doing an amazing job. And it is incredibly fulfilling to be able to serve with that group of men and women, to be there for our neighbors in their time of need.
Yeah.
That is a wonderfully fulfilling experience.
This is amazing.
I might not be sitting here now if it hadn't been for your team.
Wow.
I had a heart attack 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And the prettiest sight I ever saw with those lights coming up. I was life-starved to Hartford.
Uh-huh. Did I start your IV? Did I start your IV? Back then,
I don't remember.
back then we were an advanced life support service, and we started
And my
IVs.
cardiologist said I don't have to see her every year anymore.
Hey,
Brilliant.
I wish my cardiologist would tell me that.
I'm living proof of what they do.
Yeah, that's good. That says a lot for Cornwall.
That's,
All right, I think Patience was telling me to cut it out.
Yeah, I think we kind of.
one more question.
Thank
Okay.
you. One more
If somebody
question.
does want to join, what should they do?
Ask Patience.
No problem.
we-
We will get an application to you. You just talk to anybody in the fire department. Just let us know. We'll get an application to you, and then we'll talk to you about what the process is for it.
Thank you.
Call for
But, yeah, call Fred. I would encourage you to call, to find someone on the department that can show you there are so many different roles that need to be done. And someone that's familiar with all those and can show you what needs to be done, so that you can evaluate what needs to be done and say, I could help here, or no, that's not my cup of tea. But someone that can show you what those roles are.
You can even sell raffle tickets for fire chief, or,
All right.
Thank
Am I
you.
going back to work
You're
now?
all set. Thank you. Yeah, you did good.
I just
Oh
have
my
I ate 2 of the blueberry muffins already. I think they cut me off at 2.
one, you can take that down for a minute.
Okay, that's it.
So